in the end, you set your KPIs based on the goals that you want to achieve with your business. And so any KPI can work for you and any KPI can work against you. It depends on what your goal for your business is. I find that people are a lot more open to talking to you if you just provide that value up front and be like, well, I'll connect you to something that will help you.
Instead of, hey, I have this product,
which is really cool. It's going to solve your problem like XYZ. But you didn't actually know if they had that problem.
Louise has been in business for over 20 years, which of 10 years in tech. She finished 4 points from her tech bucket list that are?
First was taking a company from zero to hero, the number one in market. Second was trying the private company out, building the structure within from the ground up. Third was doing the mergers and acquisition. And fourth and last was taking a company public.
So that's quite a track record and quite some experience to learn from. And that's exactly what we're going to do, because today we're going to dive in all the insights and all the skills and the whole story behind how she was able to do this as a high achieving, really cool person. So you can learn a lot from that and check off your own list.
There's always a list to be checked off.
There's always a list to be checked off, and then you rather listen to someone who has done it. So if you don't listen, you're dumb. It's free learning material here.
There's always a new achievement that needs to be conquered.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a real psychopathic, entrepreneurial, high-achieving business person. Always
kindness.
With kindness.
So
you are really ambitious.
I am very ambitious and driven, motivated and curious about the world and the wonders that are in it.
Is that curiosity that's there? That has always been there, right?
Yeah, I feel like it has always been there. I've always been like an explorer, whether it was my surroundings or stories or books or other people. I've always found that all of the connectivity that's in that very fascinating and interesting and curious.
So that curiosity that sparked, that's one of the drivers, of course, got you to check off those boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also one other thing that we've talked about.
Yes. So I think very early on, and also if you look at my family lineage, I come from a line of entrepreneurs. My mom is a very successful entrepreneur. Her parents were very successful entrepreneurs. So there's always been like that drive of can do, want to, will do, don't know how, but let's go and see if we can figure it out. And I think I've had some really good nurtures when I was very young, some curiosity and interest that really sparked it. One was, which is a classic for everybody these days, but very early on, I fell in love with murder mystery books. And that really, I always wanted to see what are the characters going to do, what's the storyline going to unfold. And then I was also very early on exposed to horses and doing horse riding. And one of the things that you learn specifically when you're doing horse riding and horse jumping is, first of all, it humbles you because you're just a tiny human. But you're actually working with this big animal that's at least a half a ton. And you have these very tiny strings and you have your legs and your body and you need to create the connection with this huge animal that in theory can trouble you at any second. But if you build the right connection and you learn how to work together, you can actually create something together, which either is dressage, which is I find very beautiful, but also now when I reflect on it, strategic thinking is when you do like horse jumping, for example, because when you're riding a horse and you're doing horse jumping, for those who don't know, when you are jumping one jump, your mind is not in that place. Your mind is already at the next and the next jump because you need to figure out how am I going to land this horse in order for me to be successful with the next and the next one. And then there are all of these outside factors that you have to take into consideration, such as the nature of the horse or any distractions. And then there's usually also time sensitivity to it. So you learn how to build these mental capabilities of how do I plan ahead? How do I make sure that I land right so the next step is going to be executed correctly? How do I make sure that I do this in a very highly competitive way so that I can also be part of, the winning team? Everybody wants to be on the podium at the end. So I think a lot of those things have been part of driving
the first principle, second principle, third principle thinking that comes from riding a horse and doing horse jumping.
Yeah, I know. Who would have thought?
And then there was also this urgency or this urge.
Yeah.
Sort of independence.
Yes. So, but I think that comes back to the curiosity element as well, that I want to go out and explore and learn about people and see in a lot of different ways how we evolve and how we are with pattern recognition, and how we behave and how cultures evolve and how each of us come from different backgrounds and how that kind of turns out. Was that what you were hinting at?
Yeah. And because that's what we also talked about up front. And of course, say what you want to say.
Yeah.
If you don't want to say anything, just don't say it.
Awesome.
That you're a firstborn.
Yeah.
Within that, there's just there comes all kinds of struggles. And I think that's also really good to acknowledge because more people will have those struggles. You're not the only one in the world who is a firstborn, I think.
Some interesting science backing the go-getter mentality about being a firstborn. It doesn't apply to everybody, and it's also different from culture to culture. But I definitely think that I got those attachments and what's scientifically proven behind that there's a different type of nurture that goes into that process. And I think it definitely influences the independence that you get and the focus and drive and the motivation to move forward. Absolutely.
To stand on your own feet, to be a sovereign individual in the beautiful terms.
Oh, I love that word, sovereign individual. Yeah, that's a good term. That's going
to be a LinkedIn banner now. No?
I really love it. It sounds very royal.
There you go. And that's also within that there came striving for the independence, striving for doing better. And that's also that in connection with the horse riding and the relentless ambition bounded to it.
Yeah.
Got you a skill that people pointed out to you, and that's why they hire you.
Yeah, so I do have very strong pattern recognition, and over time I've learned to have really strong people skills and understand the strengths and the capabilities that are in each of us, and to try and pull that out. So in many ways, without being able to actually do it, but I do feel that sometimes I have the capability to look around corners and see what comes next, whether it's like a market trend or if it's in the business world, right? How are we moving, or what are competitors doing? Like you can't predict the future, but if you have really strong pattern recognition, then you are able to kind of understand what moves and when it will move. And if you're able to anticipate that, you're able to build something that will be, once the moment hit, you already have it. And so that will give you a competitive edge in most cases in business, but it will also give you like a head start when it comes to building like people team and businesses, whether you're a startup or if you're a scale-up.
That's also what we're going to dive into later, because there's this one sentence that people said to you on why they hired you, and that's like, you're able to...
I'm able to build a plane while flying. I have literally been hired several times by people where it's like, I can help people explain like where we need to go. I don't necessarily need to know or do know how to get there, but I do know how to figure it out. And so I think that comes back to you can build a plane while flying, because especially when you're in the tech and the tech startup scene and the scale-up scene that I've been in for the last 10 years, things just move so fast. And you have to be able to understand where you're going and then build and scale at the speed that it takes you to get there, which is very interesting and very fascinating.
And also, it's also where I think a lot of entrepreneurs, because if you just break down the sentence, build a plane while flying it, that's literally what you do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You have no clue of what you're doing.
No.
You're just like, and you've talked to the biggest guys that are there that control like electricity worldwide, and it's like people we cannot mention and we cannot talk about.
No, but like through my line of work and having worked for some of the most important IT and specifically cybersecurity companies in the world, it's given me access to a lot of the people that are in charge of making sure that we have power in our grids, that they make sure that we have water running and that everything is secure around the world. And these are all very important people, right? Because they hold the keys to our common well-being and our infrastructure. And talking to these people and also learning to understand specifically within the cybersecurity industry, how do we protect this and how do we evolve? And then helping cybersecurity companies or IT companies in general just meet those demands, not just of the present, but of the future, which is what we constantly need to build for and scale for. That's been one of the most fascinating things that I've been given access to.
And those people that you've met, like they also have the ability, and that's why I'm breaking it down there. So that's the connection there. They also have the ability to build the plane while flying it. So
there's some too.
In the end, no one knows what they're doing, but you need to do it.
Yeah.
Before anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. It's necessary.
And that's like one part of your 20-year career. Because when we've talked about your career is almost older than me. That's fucking crazy.
Let's not compare that.
But you said like, okay, but if you break down my career, there's two parts of it.
Yeah, there's I usually break it up as before and after tech. So for the last 10 years I've been in tech, but before that I spent a lot of time in the country where I am from. I'm from Denmark. Owning and learning the skill sets that I have today, which is in sales and marketing, and understanding the movements of that in different industries. So before tech, and my basic education has actually nothing to do with marketing or sales in that matter, but my basic education is as a freight forwarder, so international shipping and logistics. And I started with that, and then I went into the hospitality business, and then I went into the manufacturing business, of which I all learned and owned my sales and marketing skills and function. I learned what it means to drive a business. I learned to understand like the KPIs and what we need on the ground floor in order to deliver the goals up top. A lot of this worked for me in a way, and a lot of it didn't. So I also understood that I wanted more theoretical knowledge. So for about 4 years of that journey, I went back to university part-time, and I did a graduate diploma in international leadership and business organization, which actually for me has been one of the most valuable things that I could do, because that really made me understand why and what I'm doing, why it works or why it doesn't work. And it taught me a lot about business models. It taught me a lot about international strategies and like expand or centralization and stuff like that.
And if we dive into that in the before tech career, because we've said like, okay, there's 3 points that are skill sets that you've really learned in the before tech. So you've mastered the art of the job there. And the tech part, we're going to dive in later because when it comes to KPIs, like let's break that down.
Yeah.
What is a good KPI and what are the biggest mistakes you see within KPIs? Like that's really broad.
That is such an interesting question. I could come up now with an answer that says KPIs is obviously revenue. We need profitability. We need to have like sales cycle speed. We need to have buyer's journey, all of these things like upsell and expand and land and all of these business KPIs. But in the end, you set your KPIs based on the goals that you want to achieve with your business. And so any KPI can work for you and any KPI can work against you. It depends on what your goal for your business is. And I think that was one of the things that I learned really early on in my career. And
How did you learn it?
One very specific example, and I'll try and make this as anonymized as possible so I don't share any business secrets.
Get sued or anything.
But I did get hired into a sales and marketing team at one point. That team specifically was facing budget cuts because they weren't able to prove the value of each person's contribution to the business.
So the key performances.
The KPIs, they were wobbly or they weren't there. And from up above looking down, they were just like, well, we don't see the value from this team or these members, so why should we keep them? Very simple and very relevant question, especially when you're a business leader. But I was like, no. This team is very valuable. There's a lot of value being generated from this team. So let's figure out how can we illustrate that? So I went to the finance department. I was like, okay, so for every item that we sell, what's the average value of that? Just give me the average value. And then I went back and then I said, right, so everybody in this team, every time we do one shape or form of upsell tactic or logistics cost reduction or optimization in some or other ways, we can translate it into an average value. And that average value is actually the added value that this team is bringing to the business. And then all of a sudden, the team was showing how much it actually contributes to the business. And the whole budget cut thing went away. And instead, it got more funding to expand the strategy and figure out, well, how can we actually build on that? And how can we expand this and how can we optimize so that we get more value out of this team, right? So you flip the situation, but you didn't have the KPI up front. We created it because we needed to show something that was matching up with the business goal.
And how do you define which KPIs to track? Because it needs to have some creativity and some business or strategic knowledge to see, okay, but we need to track this and we need to track this to get the value or get the vision of the value this department generates. Like, how can you walk me through that thinking process? Like, not specifically for this case, but in general.
So I'll talk from my personal approach and just how I look at it. And then there are many ways to look at it and there are rights and wrongs for whatever industry and whatever you're trying to do. My approach often comes out of a place of defiance and a place of, we absolutely can do this and I will show you how. And if you don't believe me, I will show you. You like graphs, you want diagrams, you want all of that. I can make that happen for you. I can show you that value. And I think that in many ways determines what kind of KPIs you create. But it also comes back to, for me personally, in my career, 9 out of 10 times when I really get fired up and create something that hasn't been created before, it's because people tell me it can't be done. Or if there's like a limiting mindset where we've always done this, so we should just continue doing this. Like, that's my kryptonite. So I was like, no, we have billions of different ways of doing it. We have to be intentional about why we choose to do it this way. And then we also have to be very much aware of when we choose to doing it this way, we will gain all of these benefits, but there are also things that we won't gain. So are we okay with not having this? You can't just only choose a KPI or a goal for the sake of just achieving one thing. You have to also be aware of, when you focus on one thing, what are we saying no to?
How do you set that intention?
I think it comes from a lot of good conversations. It comes from, what skill set do you already have in your business? What are some quick wins that you can like show and prove the growth and the performance and KPIs, like short term, but also what's the long-term goal, right? And how do we then build the milestones to get there? That's something we have to agree on. If you're a sole entrepreneur, you just have to agree with yourself. So good luck with that.
Those are nice that you're writing in your journal and crying in front of the mirror.
Yeah. If you are a larger business, which is usually what I work with, like tech scale-ups and larger enterprise, you have a lot more people in the room that needs to agree on what the direction is, but you have to be able to listen to what's the skill set that we have, what are the capabilities that we have, how are we actually winning in the market with what we have, and then how can we amplify that while building supporting factors around it. Those are conversations that needs to happen.
Theo, the podcast dog.
Oh, you're so sweet. Love that. I love that you're interested in KPIs, Theo. That's a good dog.
And then I think one of the outcomes of a KPI, and that's also something that you that you learned through that, is how a business actually makes money.
Yeah. So there are different ways. This is so good.
It's not going to be cut out. Just so you...
No, I know. He's so good. Okay. Sorry, can you ask that question again?
So through KPIs,
yeah,
you will see what's going on in the company. You will see what's there. And we just talked about how you get the right KPIs. But an outcome of KPIs, at least from a business perspective, is making more money. Because that's what a business needs to do.
Business is here to make money.
And that's also something that you talked to me about, is that how to make a business actually profitable, something that you learned in your first 10 years of business.
Yeah, so, well, the last 10 years have been in tech, or the first 10 years. Because the first 10 years were different, and it also depends on the industry. So before tech, I was in the more, I'm going to call them more traditional industries, such as like the logistics industry, the hospitality industry, and the manufacturing industry. Those are industries that have been around for a very, very long time. And they are pretty set with KPIs, and they're pretty set on having a business model that is built for profitability. And so you learn the cost optimization models. You learn how to leverage the market trends. You learn how to leverage the opportunities and the threats, but also when you are in established industries in that space. And for the companies that I was with, of the size that they were at, like large enterprise with a global presence, they also get to influence the market. So there are different ways of them being able to influence. I usually call it the O's and the T's in the SWOT model, the opportunities and the threats that are in the external environment of your business, which you normally don't have any direct control over. But if you get to a certain scale of a business, you get to influence that a little bit. So there's some profitability models in that as well.
Like what that you can talk about?
Legislation is a big one. Legislation is a very, very big one. Where the very large companies get to, because they are the experts in their field, so they are going to be called on if there is a challenge in society or something that needs to help. Like, let's use the power grid, right? Like let's make sure like the governments, they're accountable for always having power in the grid. But there are companies underneath that are the experts in how to make that happen and make sure that consistency is there. And so the companies are going to be called on by the legislators, the governments, and the lawmakers, in order for them to have the expertise to build out the right laws and regulations around that.
And because they have that power, it gives them a lot of benefit.
Yeah, it does.
And then there's one last skill that you learned within your pre-tech career.
Pre-tech career.
Sales and marketing.
Oh yeah, that's my function.
Your function,
the whole
everything you did.
my whole business function. I call it function because it's sales and marketing. It's what I do. It's what I execute. So I call that my function. My knowledge and my mind is a lot more attuned to the business. So I always look up with business models and market trends and all of these things. That's where I go to first, but I execute through my sales and marketing skills. So I own that in my pre-tech career, the first 10 plus years of that.
And how do you translate that?
Oh, in what way? To what language?
So, for example, you have a business model.
Yeah.
You see the business model, you analyze the business model.
Yeah.
How do you execute that to sales and marketing? Because execution is a big problem for a lot of people. And sales and marketing, it's like the blood that runs through your veins and the heart that keeps the business pumping.
Yeah. So a lot of sales and marketing, if you tie it up to, it's like your go-to-market model. So how are you going to go to market? What are your priorities? What are your customers, industries? Like where would you get the revenue base from? Like where would you, if you're just starting out, like where would you be able to make the first revenue? And then what's the next step? And then what's the next step? And then how would you expand on that? I'm going to take it back to the tech world because that's where I live in now. So it's more present to me in my mind. But for example, for a tech company, you can have someone that specializes specifically in healthcare, the healthcare industry, and working with that, their data management or their security systems or something like, or the software development. And so they specifically, their go-to-market model would be, I sell into healthcare organizations, the IT departments in healthcare organizations. And so I will focus on that. That's my go-to-market model. I'm doing this very simplified now. There's a lot of underlying parts to it, but I'm doing this trying to explain it very simplified. Whereas if, for example, if you were selling into healthcare, you wouldn't start by going to a manufacturer. Like they wouldn't understand your messaging and they wouldn't understand your go-to-market model, and you wouldn't be able to make the same kind of revenue in that sense, or have the closing rate of sales in that sense.
So sales and marketing, when it comes to the execution, if I understand correctly, like, okay, how do I position myself? Who do I target?
Yeah.
And how can we bring that to life?
Yeah.
And if we dive even a bit deeper into that,
Mm-hmm.
is it, and that's probably industry specific or probably different, that's what we'll see right now.
Yeah. We'll uncover.
What do you say? Start wide or start narrow? Because that's like a big thing for most people.
First of all, if you sell to everybody, you sell to no one. That's just the law. If you have something and you're like, I'll sell to anybody who wants to buy it, you're not selling to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be intentional with what it is that you have, what value it drives, and who does it drive value for. There will always be some, if you find the right people or businesses that understand the value, that understand the problem that you're solving for them, or the value add or cost savings or whatever it is that you offer for a value for them, they will pay you a premium for that. But if you go out and say, I have this thing and anybody who wants to buy it, here it is, nobody's buying, right? Nobody's going to come for you. Also, down the line, you can't scale as fast. You're going to have so many customers and stakeholders involved in trying to influence the direction of your company and your business. It's going to be very messy. It's going to be very time consuming. It's going to be very resource heavy, and it's going to hurt your profitability. So you have to be very intentional with, I have this product. It's going to add really a lot of value for this specific either personality or a person or a business model or an industry, or like there are tons of ways that you can kind of segment your way into the market that way. And then you focus hardcore on that, and then you build based on that, and then you scale up from that.
One of the challenges I personally experience with this is that I love to focus on the psychographics
Yeah.
instead of the demographics.
Yes.
what I've learned is that if you talk, and this is also maybe
Yeah.
as my copywriting background and sales background, I'm good with
No, you're right.
talking
Very
to
right.
people.
Yeah.
And if I know who to talk to
Mhm.
and how to talk in that way,
Mhm.
I focus on the psychographics, so all the pains and desires underneath, and what does winning look like for them based on the project and thing that they have.
Yeah.
But I don't focus that much on the demographics. So how old are they? What is this? What's that? What's this?
Mhm.
Kind of job? What industry? And that's what I meant with wide and narrow, because I totally agree on the fact that if you talk to everyone, you talk to no one. Like that's
Mhm.
common ground in marketing. You can
Yeah.
send it to every marketer you want. They all agree on that.
Yeah.
And if you don't,
Learn it.
learn it.
It's sorry, but yeah.
So what's your stake in that?
Oh, I totally agree. I very much agree. Again, I'm going to take it back to the tech world because that's kind of where I live and breathe. So especially if you're like a tech startup and you have some new technology that's either and a huge evolution of something that's already existing, but huge improvement, or it's something completely new. You have, I'm trying, it's like a curve like this that kind of shows the adaptation of the market. So in the very first beginning, you have the early adopters, the ones that will get excited about your technology and your product and be like, "Holy shit, this is new. I want to get in. I want to be with you. I want to be on it." Like, so the psychographics, right? They're a little bit more prone to taking risks, and they also want to be part of the journey. So that's like the early adapters. Those are your first clients. You get them in. I would also say it's important that you choose who your first clients are, because they do want to be part of your journey and what you develop your business to be. They want to invest in you, not only as a customer, but also somebody who will be an advisor to you. So also as a business owner, choose who your first customers are, because they will also be part of defining your journey going forward. And then you have the next kind of group, which is they're a little bit more skeptical, but they just need a little bit more reassurance. And then we go into the big part, which is probably the main part of your market. It's like once you get in and are able to break into those, you're really making it. And we used to call them conservative, because they're not just going to take you for your word. They want to hear somebody that's like them talk about you in the way that you talk about you. So that's where like customer stories and partners, business partners and stuff like that, like who's in their circle that they trust is already invested in your business and what it is that you do and believe in your vision and your mission. Then they will be converted. And then once you get into that, that's when your business model really starts taking off. And your scale up really starts to grow. So there are different levels and there are different considerations at those stages, which is always interesting.
And then when it comes to, because this is the marketing part, and when it comes to the sales part.
Oh, but marketing and sales go together.
I know, because I first learned sales and then I learned marketing.
Yeah.
And my marketing skills compounded because I knew sales.
Yeah.
And there's no correct way to do one way or the other. It's just like, in the end, you need to learn both.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what was your position in that? Was that like first marketing approach and then later sales approach? What kind of sales approach is like online selling? Is like in-person selling? Because sales is a broad perspective.
Sales is a broad
so is marketing, but like.
Yeah. So, me, when I first started like in really hardcore canvas sales, and I'll admit this any day, I'm terribly scared of the phone, which does not help you if you're in sales.
No.
And so I was like, oh, I don't want to call people that don't know me and I don't want to bother them. And then I wonder if, like, are they going to get mad at me, or like, am I going to be annoying to them like any other person I feel like annoys me sometimes? But then I was like, that's not really the position that I'm in. I'm not here to annoy them. I am here to give them information and access to experts in an area of which they have a problem that they need to solve. Now, it's their decision to make whether or not the solution that the company that I'm working for, the thing that I'm selling is the right solve for them. But it is my job to make sure that they have all the relevant information that they need so they can make an informed decision. So I kind of took that approach from a sales perspective. And then I started reaching out and doing a lot of social selling. That was like my bread and butter when I was in sales. Reaching out, building the network, just saying, hey, I'm here. If you want to learn more about this, I have like a whole team where I have like XYZ people that I can connect you to, and then you will learn more. And I find that people are a lot more open to talking to you if you just provide that value up front and be like, well, I'll connect you to something that will help you. Instead of, hey, I have this product, which is really cool. It's going to solve your problem like XYZ. But you didn't actually know if they have that problem, you know? So there's, and sometimes I think there was a recent statistic that I learned that at any given time, only 5% of your total addressable market is in a position to actually be buying. So that means that 95% of your market that you want to sell to, they're not in an active position to be buying. 5% are.
What I always do when I have a sales call and had a shit ton of sales conversations, as you know, is I always use the agenda setting.
Yeah.
With the agenda setting, I make it very clear what my purpose is on the call and that I'm there to help them. So I always say, okay, how are we going to do this? First of all, and this is most of the time it was inbound, but on cold, like you can reframe it and it works also on outbound.
Yeah.
You just say, okay, first of all, we're just going to see where are you right now? What's your point A?
Yeah.
Then we're going to see what's your point B? Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Then we will see what we need to do to get you to that point B. So this call will be valuable for you. That's my personal job to make this valuable for you and that you get out of this with something new in your pocket.
Yeah.
If we are able to help you get to your point B faster and add additional value to your business by the end of this call, it may be the case that I will provide you a service, an offer, a product, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
If not, I will just shut up and say nothing because I have multiple of those calls in a day. And if I need to pitch everyone, it's going to be a really exhausting day. And you're not waiting for that. I need to do it. So I'm not waiting for that as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. That agenda setting is solid.
Yeah.
And it brought me.
And respectful of people's time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you get any 5 or 10 or 15 minutes from another person, make sure that you show up and you deliver value to them in that. They will respect you for that and they will remember you for that. So it's part of it.
And sometimes I literally had leads that just texted me 1 year later.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we had this conversation. I'm ready now. I'm like, what did you do in that 1 year? But
sure. No, because that's what I mean by only at any given time, only 5% of the people that you consider your potential customers will be in the market to actually make a purchasing decision. But the 95, they will remember you over time. And it's important. That's where marketing comes in. And I always say like mind share equals wallet share. They might not be able to buy right now, but if you're still in their mind, the second they have the budget, the second they're able to say, now I'm ready to solve this problem for my business, they will come to you. If you have mind share, you have wallet share.
And now there's going to be a really interesting thing because how do you track or what do you do or how can you track or at least envision the power of branding within that? Because branding is marketing and it's like...
Okay, so...
your eyes just start sparkling.
I know, but this is like a whole TED Talk.
Short and sweet, and then we go over to your tech.
Wake me up at 2 a.m. and I'll give you the whole spiel on this. I'll try and make it as short as I possibly can. Where do I start? So you have to be intentional about it. I think if I look at let's look at it from like a business owner perspective. We are founders, we're business owners, we're scale ups, right? We are very passionate about what we do. We think what we're doing is the best thing on this earth. We're grinders, we drive. We want people to see the value in the product that we're offering, the services that we're delivering. We have to be, first of all, we have to be very mindful not to fall in the pit of being in our own world. That's my number one. You have to be, I love that you love your business. I love my business. I love what I do. But it doesn't matter to the person that's buying this from me.
People always think about themselves. A radio
Yeah.
called Me FM, and they think, what's in it for me?
Yes. And you have to, and it's great that you have that because you build confidence and there's nurture in that in your business as well. You have to flip it around and be like, what do they need? And why are they interested in talking to me? Typically, especially in the tech industry, companies have challenges within their IT systems. We all do. Like the technological evolution is like booming, but they are already trying to solve existing problems, and these existing problems all are quite similar for a lot of big corporations. And so these are already, I call them, these are already existing conversations. This is where like the CISOs, the CEOs, the CFOs, they're all sitting around a table and saying like, we're facing these challenges. Like, for example, uncertainty, global uncertainty, like how are we going to navigate this? They're all facing all of these challenges. These are existing conversations. So if you come in and then say, well, I have this super cool product and it's going to X to the C. What? And they'll be like, but that's not our problem. That's not our mindset. We're not here. We're existing in this conversation. We're solving these problems right now. So great that you got that, but it's not relevant to us. Right. So there's a disconnect.
There's no product market fit.
There is,
But
there's a disconnect in your branding and in your messaging and in the common understanding of how that can help them solve the problem that they already have. So that's where businesses, and then basically what I've been doing, not only for the last 10 years, but throughout my career, is I'm finding these conversations, pattern recognition. I'm finding these conversations and market trends, and then I'm figuring out the conversations that are already happening in there. And then you find out what the product and the service that you have, the value that it can contribute to that, and then you insert yourself in the conversation. You don't talk about your product. You don't talk about your service. You position yourself as an expert in the field. You position yourself as someone who has knowledge and perspective and an opinion about the challenges that the companies are already facing. And you help them understand the problem from their side. And sometimes you can even help shift the problem. Like decision makers, the C-suite, they're all working towards, they have a priority list. They have budgets, they have resources, they need to align it. They can't solve everything at once. They have like top 3 priorities that they're solving. That's what gets the budget, right? And as a business and you want to sell to them, you want to have that budget. You want to sell to them, right? That's your existence. And so you have to position yourself as the expert in that conversation, because then all of a sudden they're going to start looking at you. And in that process, they might actually see that the problem that you're solving, before it was 10 on their priority list, now they're like, oh, we need to solve this like yesterday. So now you're problem or number 1 or 2 or 3 on the priority list. And that's how you get the budget.
Through the right messaging.
Through the right conversations, inserting yourself in the conversations that they already have, not pitching your product.
And that's the last question about this topic.
Yeah. It's a TED Talk.
Where do you find the right conversation?
Oh, they exist. They exist everywhere. One of the things that I like to do is you go to tech conferences. You can go to big tech conferences around the world. And then one thing is you can look at all the vendors that are there, what they're messaging, and then find the key trends of that. I'm not going to say that they're on point. Most of the time they're a little off or a lot off, but there are commonalities. So you can visually see that. Then there is stuff like legislation, which is happening quite a lot, especially within tech, which is a very fast evolving industry, but all industries are evolving. All industries are becoming technology industries. So there's legislation and regulations coming from all sides, which companies have to be in compliance with, or they have to rearrange their business structure to adhere to. Then sometimes it's listening to content like this, listening to a couple of the people that are in your customer target group that are, whether you're selling into a CEO or CFO, or in my case, CISOs and CTOs and stuff like that, where they sit and they do content like we do right now, and they sit and share about what is on top of mind for them. And a lot of the content out there is sponsored by or provided by vendor companies. By vendor companies, I mean technology companies that are selling into other organizations. So the messaging can be a little bit skewed in their favor, naturally, as we would always do, because we want to influence the conversations that are happening. But you can pick up pieces and points from that as well. And then there's also there's a lot of tech media as well that you can listen to. I actually have had some of the most valuable conversations when I've shared a cab with someone from an event to another, and they start talking about, well, actually, this is just what matters to me right now. And I'm just like, that's very interesting. Why is that?
I got a lead from sitting next to someone in the airplane.
Yeah.
And it was a 6-hour flight, so it was like a 3-hour sales conversation.
So many times, which is a very, very good point. I've had so many both career, personal, and business-wise conversations happening when I was on the go. And you meet people, and that's actually it's a very good point, because you get so many pointers from that, and people are more relaxed. They're in a natural setting. They're more than happy to share with you what they're thinking about and why it matters to them.
And I think it's more than clear right now to everyone, and if not, you're dumb. That you're really knowledgeable, that you're really good at what you're doing, but within your pre-tech career, you were not as far as you are right now.
Oh, no.
And you saw that people got better than you.
Yes.
And as someone who is ambitious,
yeah,
and who wants to be the best, at least does not care about winning, but will say it in your face if you do, in your words.
No, it's not a competition unless you're winning. Yeah, but that was the whole, because I was building all of these skills, and I was having these successes, and I was figuring it out, I felt like, but I was also seeing a lot of my peers, they were just passing me. Like, they were moving way faster career line, and they were getting promotions faster, or they were getting opportunities faster. And I was like, what the heck do they have? What is this? Like, figure it out. And one of the things that I noticed that they had, apart from me, was international experience. So while a lot of them had gone first to university to do a bachelor's degree, and then do a master's degree, and then through that they would do a year abroad, or they would do a semester or something like that will give them the international perspective, which in turn gives the self-awareness and self-insight, and a broader network and experience. It's just, being international just opens your mind, and in
Totally agree on that
beautiful way. And I was like, so that's what you got. And I don't. And so it took me, from me figuring that out to me having sold everything and put my stuff in a van and moved across the border, it took me 5 weeks.
And that's what you say on a podcast called Digital Nomad Podcast. So it's like, I think that, and I know, because I know my psychographics of my audience, you are manipulated right now.
Oh, 100%.
100%. But I know the psychographics of my audience, and I know that a lot of people struggle with the fact, like, I want to go, but I don't dare to take the airplane ticket, or I want to do it, but this only reinforces them maybe a bit more to just go. Always go. Because you can always go back. And literally, like, the past half year, I've been abroad. I have not been in the Netherlands for half a year right now. And I think this is so far my best year that I ever had when it comes to personal growth, when it comes to meeting people like you and the founders we let the Nomad World Fest.
Yes.
When it comes to people you meet in Bali, people you meet everywhere, it's like, it's life-changing if you
100%.
do it. And the part how that became life-changing for you.
100%. Yeah, that was, I was like, my first goal was like, give it a year. And I was like, and I've also learned that when if you're an expat or you're a nomad and a slow traveler or whichever way you want to explore the world, you'll know within 6 to 12 months if this is for you. So you can always go. I always say it's like nothing in life is ever permanent. So you don't have to make the decision permanent either. But go, try, see what it gives you. It will give you something. It will give you much more than what you expect. And it will help you grow in ways that you could never, ever imagine. So for me, I did my last year of my 4-year graduate diploma in a new country, in a new job, while doing self-study to kind of try and like press a little bit and catch up with the people that I found were running past me. And I was like, I can do better. I was like, I see you. I'll win this race. And so I did that. And
where did you go to?
Well, Amsterdam, the Netherlands. What?
Amazing.
For me, it was also a little bit of a safety network because I already knew 2 people there, and I had more connections throughout the Netherlands. So I was like, I know, if you just have one person that you'll have a bit more of a safety net. For me, that was important at least.
And corporate business-wise, Amsterdam is like a hidden gem in Europe.
It actually is. There's like quite a lot of opportunity there. And all of the time that I've spent in the Netherlands. So I spent the first 5 years there. The first year I was finishing my graduate diploma and doing the job. Then somebody called me up, which was how I came into tech, and said, "Hey, you speak Danish, right?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, we got a sales job over here. We'll pay you double." I was like, "Great, I'll be there on Monday." But actually that was the whole catalyst for changing my career and getting me into the what I consider my right line, my path, my journey. And I got the interview. I was doing the sales interviews, and one of the questions, which I still remember greatly to this day, and I'm going to give a shout out to Brian Finley, who was the VP at the time, and he was my last interview process. And he was like, "Yeah, so you're here for the sales role, and can you do this?" And I was like, "And you give the pitch, right?" He was like, "Yeah, it's and this is how, and this is my experience, and what I don't know, I will learn, and I'm a fast learner, and all of these things." And then he was like, "No, but what do you actually really want to do?" And I was like, "No, but I can do this job." And it was like, "So I'll do this job." And he was like, No. What do you really want to do?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Well, I really want to be able to connect people at a place where they don't have to work as hard to gain the knowledge and access to expertise and experience that we as a company and eventually market leader number 1 is able to provide. So I want to be the connector. I want to help you get access to knowledge so you don't have to go out and spend time and resources on generating this experience for yourself." It was like, that was my answer. I was like, I really just want to be the connector, and I want to help rich people. And he was like, "Cool." Cool. And I got the job. And then it just escalated from that. I was in the tech industry, we call it a rocket ship. And it absolutely was. I was in a team with over 90 different nationalities, and the business was growing so fast. And I finally found, like I found a way to feel like home, and I found an industry that was like running at my pace. And
those are 3 points as well.
Yeah.
That define your tech career.
Yeah. Yeah.
One is indeed the pace.
Yes, the pace, and then that it's highly international, and I I get to work with people from all walks of life, from all over the planet. I have gotten to build teams and learn from cultures and make all the mistakes that you do when you come from a Nordic person who's only just been international for a couple of years at the time, and then get tasked with building out a whole team in Asia Pacific and Japan and across Europe, Middle East and Africa, and eventually also North America. And you're just like, sure,
I'll do it.
sure. That sounds like a very good challenge. And I was surrounded with a lot of good support. There's a lot of good people, and it was like almost 4 years of my life, the first almost 4 years of my tech life. And in those years, I learned so many things that would normally take a person 10 to 15 years to learn in a career setting. It was a nonstop grind. It was fast paced. It was up at 2 a.m. and do quarterly business review with Australia and Asia. It was then sleep for a couple of hours, then take care of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And then at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, the North American teams and colleagues and managers would wake up, and then you do that until like 10 or 11 p.m. So it was a hard grind, and a very steep learning curve, and very exciting. I got to travel to so many places. My job took me everywhere. I had several years where I had more than 250 travel days. I've currently been to over 35 countries in the world and counting. I need to do more. Still traveling, still love that life. And you get to learn from people and meet them from everywhere. And I got to make the mistakes that I had to make to create a better understanding of things.
So when it comes to the fast pace, what did you learn from the fast pace specifically?
It's highly addictive. Not gonna lie. Because you get to do a lot of cool stuff in a very short amount of time, and there's a lot of success, and there's a lot of celebrations, and there's a lot of grind, and when you move really fast and you're in an environment that supports that and that it's built for that, you get really sucked into it. I think that's really, really great. I will also say there's always another side to the coin. And you can do it for a short period of time in your life. You can't make that the strategy of your career, and you can't make that you can't sustain it. We're humans. We're physically not able or capable to sustain that long term. And that's something you learn along the way, either by being very in tune with yourself, or you learn it the hard way.
And the international part.
That was just that's still a key foundation to my life today. It has to be where I exist, where my people are, because it just creates such a different understanding of who we are as humans and who we are as people, but also what we're capable to do and how we can build together. I think it's been one of the things that really taught me what we can do when we see what our different skill sets or different mindsets and capabilities are, we put that together, then how we can build and how we can grow with that. And having just the ability for me personally, to build teams that are globally and hire and work with and have friends, and I'm sure you do the same thing now, right? Where when we travel, we was like, I'm going to be in this location at this time. Do you happen to cross airstreams at the same? Is there a way that we can overlap?
I always say Instagram is great for being visible.
Yeah.
That's like your top of funnel.
Yeah.
And WhatsApp is for the real connection. So if you really want to meet up with someone and they're in that area.
Yeah.
You send them a message.
Yeah.
And they're in that area because of the top of funnel, because of Instagram.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. And I also think that the international relations that I got to make through my work and career like we're still connected today, both because we created something really cool together. So we have that we're really proud of, but also because we were in the grind together, whether it's for a short amount of time, like this week where we're at the Founders Villa here in Albufeira, or if it's a longer term and you are a team that travels to build something over like 12 months or 24 months or something at a time, you create connections that will be everlasting for that. And that's the international part for me that I absolutely love.
And also, it shimmered through a couple of times as well, and that's the building part, because
Yeah.
building is building teams, managing people,
Yeah.
creating a vision to life,
Building businesses,
building businesses.
scaling businesses, finding solutions to everything that people say can be done. Growing and just building.
Just building.
Just building.
And you've did that for 4 years. And what are, like, I think a lot of the people have problems with hiring. A lot of people have problems with hiring. You happen to be really good at hiring.
I'd like to think so. At least if I look at all the people that I've ever hired and where they are in their career and the choices that they've made and also the amazing impact that they have had. I'm proud of each and every one of them. Very proud. They're doing amazing things. It's sometimes like working with, like, especially when we work for a company and you have to find the right people, and usually you have like a recruiting team that's supporting you with that and facilitating the process and helping sorting through people and CVs and stuff like that. I know when I know, so it's a feeling, and it's one of the best hires I've ever done. This person is still with the company today. He's done phenomenally growth in building out like the whole Asia Pacific, Japan region and globally. His CV was actually like canceled first by the recruiters. Like he had received a rejection notice already from the recruiters, because the recruiters was like, I don't think that this is a match for what you were saying. And so I was like, no, there's something here that's not quite right. And so I went through all of the CVs that have been rejected, and I found him, and I was like, there's something here. I don't know what it is. There's something here. I need to talk to this person. And I pulled him out, and yeah, he was just the right hire. But I've also hired people across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I've hired people in the US, and North America, Canada as well. And it's a good thing, because when you know and you have the vision for what it is that you need to achieve, again, building the plane while flying, right? If you know where you need to go and you're not quite sure how to get there, you can always look to the people around you, which is very important, and the people that you will bring into your team, and then they will help create that for you. They will help be the builders of the plane while we're flying, and then they will help make it happen. But you have to be the orchestrator. You have to have the vision. You have to be able to put the right people and the right skill sets together, and then facilitate that process for them and make it as easy for them as possible. If that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
And I think you quite hit nail on the part that, again, you need to do it. You need to fly. You need to build a plane while flying it. And if you don't know where the plane is going, it's hard to know how to build a plane. I mean, if you build a plane, and I'm not a plane expert, that needs to go from Spain to the Netherlands. That's a short flight, so the plane does not need to have that big of a fuel tank. But if you want to build a plane that goes from Amsterdam to China, that's a 6-7 hour flight.
Yeah,
you need to have a different type of plane with different type of engines.
Exactly.
And so you need to know your point B to create the vehicle in a way that supports the flight towards point B.
Exactly.
And that's where your international experience just came to life, to know different types of cultures, know different types of people. The managing position came to life, the KPIs. So that's actually where all your skill sets came together.
Yeah.
Bounded to learn how to act on a great vision.
Yes.
And you did that for 4 years, and then it was
And then there was a lot of changes happening in the organizations. There were a lot of, as it happens at every stage of your growth stage in your business, you're going to need different people. Very rarely do you have the same people that are able to do the entire journey from startup to scale up to enterprise to global to all of that. So at every different stage of your growth journey, you're going to need different people to help you build a plane and get you to the destination that you need to get to. And so for me, at that time, a lot of the leaders, which I adored greatly and followed, were exiting the company. And I was like, okay. So I was also getting to the stage where I had not been sleeping for a long time. I had been up at the 2 a.m. with the QBRs and worked until 11 p.m. with the American team and all of these things in between, to traveling and stuff like that. I've done that for quite intensely for a couple of years. Again, I'll say you can do that, but be very mindful of the time limit that you will expose yourself to that, because there will be a bill to pay if you don't. And so there were a natural exit of the company of the people that I adored and followed. And then there was my own where I was like, no, I'm tired. Like I'm burned out. And so I need to go and figure out something else. But then an opportunity came, which was the bucket list item number 2.
And because this was number 1 of your bucket list?
Yeah, number 1 of my bucket list was the first one. And it was also when my bucket list got created, because I got the introduction and the education of the tech industry, right? So I was like, oh, this is so cool. I wish I would have been here before the IPO. Like, I wish I would have been here earlier so I could have had more of this journey with the company. And I was like, oh, but I can go and create that somewhere else. Or, like I can find that somewhere else. And so my next stop was actually a total private company where they had no marketing at all in a year. Everything had been turned off, and they hired a whole new team, whole new CMO, whole new VPs and everything. We were a team of 5 people that were tasked with rebuilding everything from scratch. So we got to, which is a very exciting task for someone who's a builder and also someone who just comes out of like really high intense learning curve, where I was like, oh, but if I could do this again, I would do it differently. And now I've learned all of this, now I want to go and do that here. So I got to do that. It was very, very interesting. And I think I was there building that, setting things up, having some really good quick successes with that, and also long-term strategy. The C-suite seemed quite pleased with me. Then the pandemic hit, and I was a little bit more into finding something that was a secure job. But still, number 3 on my bucket list was the mergers and acquisition. So in my first job, I learned how to be the big fish that consumes the smaller ones, and what the structure is around that, and how those processes with the integration of the technology and the people and stuff, like learning those processes. But then the third one, I joined a startup team that had just been acquired by a huge conglomerate, like a huge IT conglomerate that's been around in the industry for 25 plus years. And I was tasked with, from a marketing perspective also, but I was also tasked with figuring out how do we build bridges between those two, and learning a lot of different things, such as the startup mentality, the startup culture, especially from that side of mergers and acquisition. Because I knew from the other side, it's like, if you get acquired, this is the raw truth, you have about 3 to 6 months to figure out how do you show that you add value to the business. Because otherwise, the company that is acquiring you, not merging, but acquiring you, they're just interested in learning what it is that you can, how you create value. And then once they've learned that, which doesn't take them a long time, they will let you go, right? So that's kind of the nature of the business. And usually tech companies specifically, they acquire companies either because the technology is supplemental to what they already have, or something that they need, it's a market that they need to get into, or the company has some clients that they haven't been able to get into on their own and they needed to to grow. So they can't grow organically, but they can grow through acquisitions. And so I spent a couple of years with that and trying to get them to talk to each other and work
What's the
that
biggest
out.
challenge there?
Oh, the challenge is definitely the perception. And also when you come from, this is going to be very generalizing, and feel free to go at me in the comments section. Because you can probably teach me something that I haven't yet learned. But a startup mentality is very much the grind. It's passion. It's we're building for the sake of building. We're celebrating every win. All of these things. But when you get scaled up, and especially when you get into a big conglomerate, where all of the processes are in place, right? There are systems for everything. There are people in place that make sure that you are responsible for this. Then you hand it over to the next person. Then you have an over to the next person, like basically like a conveyor belt. And all of this is like the structure of that. And there, again, every step of the growth journey of your business, you need different people. In the startup, you need people that can just like, woof, we're just here to just build and grow and scale and blah, blah, blah. But once you get up to enterprise, you need people that can be predictable and scale, like stable and scalable and expertise. And they have a huge load of work, but they're specific to one tiny area of the business. Whereas in a startup, you can easily have 50 hats on and have 50 different responsibilities in the business. And so merging those mentalities is very, very different and very challenging, and very few like it from either side. Which is why the business model is you have 3 to 6 months to figure out if you add value to the company, meaning, do you understand how we run the business here as the company that just acquired you? And are you willing to learn and be part of this? If not,
Go.
Thank you for your service. So that was very interesting learning as well.
And then the last one on your bucket list?
The last one on the bucket list, which I just completed last year. That was an IPO. I wanted to take a company from private to public. And that has been a very interesting challenge over the last couple of years. If anybody out there is familiar with that, in the tech industry, there's been kind of a drought. That tech companies haven't done IPOs for quite a long time, almost up to 2 years. I was part of the company last year, which I was with for 2.5 years, helping them to become more predictable, scalable, and in their forecasts, and from a marketing and revenue point of view as well, for them to be able to do the IPO and be consistent in delivering the results. And they IPO'd last year, which is very, very interesting. They were the first tech IPO in a long, long, long time. There hasn't been tech IPOs in a long time just because of the market uncertainties. There's been a change in how evaluation of tech companies are happening. So if we go back like 2-3 years, and again, go into the comment sections if you got any insights on that. I'd love to hear about that. But 2-3 years ago, there was like Wall Street decided that tech companies were no longer evaluated based on their revenue growth or their burn rate. So burn rate means you make 100 million and you go and spend 100 million on sales and marketing to increase your revenue, right? That means you're not profitable. And most of the tech companies that have had hyper growth over the last 10 years or plus 10 years, have been able to do this because they were in debt, and the debt would just kind of go up and up and up, but the revenue growth would be like 40% or 50% quarter over quarter, and be like, whew, literally the rocket ship you're on, like we're moving fast. And so Wall Street kind of came back around a couple of years ago and said, well, now we actually want your tech companies to be profitable. And a lot of tech companies have struggled with that, which there are many, many reasons why there's a consolidation happening in the tech industry for all kinds of different technologies. But one of the reasons why is also because a lot of tech companies weren't built for being profitable. They were built for being big revenue generating machines. And so it's been quite a couple of years since there was an IPO happening, but I joined this company because I was certain that they would do it. You can never be certain, by the way. It's like, is the sun gonna come out today, or is the clouds gonna go left or right? But it happened, and I finally got the last item on my bucket list, and I got to do the IPO with the company. We rang a little bells and stuff like that, and had a good time with it in April last year. So that was really fun. That was really cool.
And it's really cool because within all that experience and with it literally checking off everything off your bucket list, you've created a position right now for yourself.
Yeah.
Within your age that most people would dream of, that like as 38-year-old, you don't have to worry about any aspect of if you would ever get a job, people will kill for you to have them on your seats.
You can buy me. I'm affordable.
Yeah, but also like financially, they're good.
Yeah, it's I've been able to give myself the opportunity to start my own business now and basically leverage everything that I've learned, not only in the 10 years, but in 20 plus years, all of the different industry knowledge that I've done, all of the different business models that I've been part of, all of the different motions and the sales and marketing strategies that I've been part of, the go-to-market marketing strategies I've been part of. And now I've created my own marketing consultancy. So you get to hire me as your marketing consultant, and I can come in specifically for B2B scale-ups, tech scale-ups, because that is my sweet spot. I love that journey. And like I said, every growth stage in your business, you need different people. I do particularly well with scaling up, where you don't necessarily already have the budget or the financing to do a full-time headcount, or you don't have the in-house resources. But then you can hire someone like me for, 4 or 6 months at a time. I come in and I build your go-to-market campaign that will help insert you into the conversations that are already existing so that you can get the mind share and eventually the wallet share. And then I teach you how to sustain it so you don't have to have me on your retainer. So if I do my job well enough, you don't actually need me in the long run. And you can sustain it yourself and then have revenue from it for 12 plus months at a time.
And I will leave all your details in the description below. So, but then again, like, it's amazing the experience that you've having, and amazing the amount of knowledge that you've already shared.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for a lot of people, and even for me in this conversation, I have a lot of new insights or things. Like, okay, I should listen to this podcast myself and make some notes. So of course, like, thank you for that. But we've talked about it up front and we will not go into it too deep. It's always a double-edged sword.
Oh, it always is.
And everything comes at a cost. And that's what I experience right now myself within the fucking, like, you've seen me here in the villa. I'm always working. Like, I'm literally, I wake up.
The grind is real.
Before everyone else, I'm awake before everyone else is awake. And you see me behind my laptop working.
It's impressive. I see your drive.
I go to bed when everyone is already to bed. Yeah, I'm always fucking working, and I'm willing to succeed, and I'm gonna succeed. But then there's this one question that's like, what would you do differently?
There's a couple of things, and I'll reflect on it. I would pay more attention to my intuition, and what it is that my body is trying to tell me. Because you can absolutely do also what you're doing and what I've been doing. You can absolutely do that, but you have to balance it out. And in full transparency, I chose to override a lot of the things that my body and even my head was trying to tell me. And so I would pay a lot more attention to that, because that would also have sustained a lot of other things throughout life. It absolutely comes with a cost. It absolutely comes with sacrifices. If you go into this with the need or the belief that you have to do it, which in full transparency I had, then I don't think you're 100% aligned with yourself on the journey. The journey is always going to be valuable if you choose to look at it from a valuable perspective, right? Everything is in 2020 hindsight. You can always get the lessons. You'll get the growth from that. So that's one thing. I would be listening more a little bit to my head and my body and my intuition. One thing. Then the second thing is I would pay a whole lot more attention to the people that I surround myself with. Because when the good gets going and when it's really fun and a lot of people are winning and a lot of people are benefiting and profiting from what it is that you can do, and what it is that you can deliver and what you can offer, they will want that too. And they will want you to continue and they will want you to push yourself forward. And so in a lot of ways, so you can get stuck in an echo chamber of people that are celebrating you. You don't want that. You want people that are checking you. You want people that are real with you and be like, yo, love what you're doing. Love the grind. Maybe today is not the time. Like maybe today you and me, we just sit down and we have a talk about how's life, you know? Because a lot of those things can disappear when you get into the tunnel and you get into the grind and the celebration and the hype. And like I said, the growth, the pace, the speed of it all, it's highly addictive. There's like a whole chemical reaction happening in your body and your brain, and you're like, oh, this is it. Yeah, let's go. But you need people around you that can help keep you grounded as well. And I think those are two things that I probably pay a lot more attention to today.
And we've already covered the bit, but what's now?
What's now? What's now is I have built my own marketing consultancy, and I am working with B2B tech scale-ups, specifically in North America and Europe. I typically work with a marketing leader that's been put in position but don't yet have the internal resources, or a business leader who wants to scale and grow fast but don't have the budget to hire a marketing leader internally. Sales leaders as well. I have a firm belief that marketing opens, sales closes, and together we win. It's not marketing does one thing and then hand it off to sales and then you get to do it all on your own. No. We're in this together, and all of the campaigns, the frameworks, the award-winning frameworks and campaigns that I've been delivering over the last 10 plus years, that's available for people to get access to if they want to work with me. And I promise sunshine.
And if there are any last words to the people who are made it this far?
Hey, thank you for hanging out with us for this long. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Any last words? Try it. Just try it.
Do it.
Yeah, no, and I know it sounds so freaking simple, and we have all of these fears, and we have limiting beliefs, and what ifs, and what ifs, and what ifs. You'll never know until you try. You can always go back. You can always retrace your steps, rebuild, and go again. So try. Go for it. Go for it.
And I want to thank you, but like dearly thank you, because we've spent the whole week together in the Stila, and I've learned so much from you by just being surrounded by you in the Stila. And from the bottom of my heart, you are an amazing person. You are really nice and energetic and just fun to have around, fun to have good conversations with. And so I want to thank you for this week as well, and also thank you for showing up at the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've done this, and you did such a great job at facilitating it. And I wouldn't have put any other marks on you. You did great. 10/10.
and this is what I mean, like, just too sweet, you know? I will.
No, be honest. Because if it was a 5, you would have been told.
That's true. Because I've been cut off my bullshit from her this week as well. So that's like things like, yeah, but maybe it's fine if you just go to bed now. Yeah.
Good words.
I will put all your links and shit. I will text you about it, and I put it in the description. Then I would say, take action,
Yes.
Subscribe, create your own story. Visionaries, I will see you later.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.